Greetings, dear subscribers. In this video, we will tackle a big, interesting and relevant question: how to correctly choose a surveillance camera with a SIM card. We will discuss topics such as which tariff to choose and what the expenses for cellular communication will be. What should the internet speed be? A popular question. Popular questions about everything related to cloud recording. Will it work? How much does it cost? Does it work on free Google Drive or on your server? Which SD card should be chosen for recording? What capacity? Which manufacturer? How to calculate the recording archive in general? What needs to be purchased additionally? What should a fully ready kit include? When should you install cameras with SD card recording, and when is it necessary to set up a system with a full-fledged video recorder? What is the difference? There are also many questions. I will explain everything to you in detail. How do cheap cameras differ from professional ones? We will talk with you about surveillance cameras from brands like ISON, Hiwatch, Hikvision, Dahua, and other brands. We will also touch on brands from AliExpress. How to properly mount a surveillance camera. What wires are needed for the camera? What to do if there is no internet at all at the site. There are solutions for this as well. Which specific models can be purchased? I will give you specific names and links to exemplary quality models. How to protect a surveillance camera from vandals. At what height should it be mounted? What should be the proper moisture protection? So, how to install the camera to avoid issues with connector oxidation and not encounter problems during the first rain. Is it possible to connect other cameras to such a camera via Wi-Fi? I will also talk about this option, which has appeared not so long ago. What options should a modern surveillance camera with a SIM card have as of the current year 2025? Is it difficult to set up such a camera by yourself? I'll explain how it looks. How to duplicate a SIM card for cases when you want to connect several surveillance cameras to one SIM card. We will also touch on the topic of surveillance cameras powered by batteries and solar panels. I will also explain how to extend the cable from the power supply unit and what nuances are involved. And we will discuss the uninterruptible power supply for such surveillance cameras. What are the challenges here? Pour yourself some tea. It will be interesting. I will tell you everything about this topic. So let's begin. Which plan to choose and what will be the costs for cellular service? I always recommend buying the cheapest plan. Your surveillance camera will only use cellular data when you access the app to view or download something. Archive. And you yourself don't know yet how you will use your surveillance camera. Some people might play around with it for a couple of days, then log in. Only when something specific happens, like a thief comes or something is robbed, do some people log in every day to download. You can always switch to a more expensive plan, so there's no point in buying expensive plans right away. With the cellular operator, there's no point in what the internet speed should be. For a surveillance camera to work on a SIM card, the speed should be at least 3 megabits. And here's how to measure it. Take your mobile phone with the SIM card you plan to use for your surveillance camera. With that operator, go to the location where you plan to install your surveillance camera. And beforehand, in the search engine. In Google, type measure internet speed. It will give you a bunch of links to various free services. Measure it, and the speed should be at least 3 Mbps. The only advice is to do this on a Saturday evening when the internet network load is at its maximum. Will cloud recording work and how much does it cost? From experience, I can say that in 99% of cases, when you want to set up a surveillance camera with a SIM card, cloud recording does not work. Because firstly, a static IP address is required, which not all operators provide. Secondly, a very powerful internet connection is needed. This is also unavailable with most mobile operators. So you need to understand that you are setting up a surveillance camera. The modern format is 5 or 8 megapixels. A 5 megapixel camera consumes about 1 gigabyte per hour. An 8 megapixel camera, 1.5 gigabytes per hour. And this stream needs to constantly go to the cloud. If the internet speed is insufficient, you will experience constant data loss. Why would you want such surveillance? And in principle, there are now many surveillance cameras available that can record to their own SD card. And you will have access to this SD card through an app no matter where you are in the world. That is, the only real point of recording to the cloud is if you're very afraid that your camera will be stolen. In that case, it might indeed make sense to try and set it up, especially if you have an exceptional situation and a very powerful internet connection. What is a static IP address? This is when you call your internet provider and say, hello, I want to set up a static IP address. How much does it cost? Is it even possible? And they will tell you Yes, it's possible, and this amount will be added to your monthly subscription fee, meaning it's an additional paid service. Or they might say no, it's not possible with most mobile operators, as they only offer dynamic IP addresses, but there are exceptions. And by this service itself, recording to the cloud where possible is always a paid service. It doesn't work. With free Google Drive or any free servers, it will always be a paid service. Can it be set up on your computer, on a server? Such recording requires special or not inexpensive software, which costs more than $1,000. Therefore, if you already have it, let's say you have a business and you have already purchased a special server for video surveillance, yes, you can try it. But most people don't have this, and such high quality recording won't work on a regular computer. There are some cracked versions of these paid software programs. I certainly can't recommend this to you because it works today but might not work tomorrow. It's a big problem to set up, so don't count on it. There is a simple and clear way to record. Choose a decent surveillance camera with recording on an SD card and with the option of remote access to this SD card via your smartphone, and then everything works perfectly. I will tell you a bit later how to protect against vandals and which SD card to choose for recording, including the capacity and manufacturer. Regarding the capacity, first of all, you need to check how much your specific surveillance camera supports. Sometimes they support a maximum of up to 32 gigabytes, sometimes up to 64, 128 or 256 gigabyte. Now there are cameras that support up to 1 TB. SD cards. How to calculate the archive? First of all, you can get a surveillance camera with a motion sensor. I recommend everyone to get cameras with a motion sensor. If we are talking about quality surveillance cameras, this functionality will already be included. It's not something you will have to pay extra for. Why get a camera with a motion sensor? Because it will be more convenient for you to view only the events triggered by motion. That is, imagine you wake up in the morning and realize that someone stole your shovel at night. And so that you don't have to sit and watch the entire night, there is the option of recording by motion sensor. You go in and see that there was movement at 1:30 a.m. You immediately click on this event and view it right away. In this way, you not only save space on your SD card, but it also becomes easier and more convenient for you to work with your video surveillance. If we are talking about 5 megapixel cameras, that's 1 gigabyte per hour. Approximately, if we are talking about 8 megapixel cameras, that's 1.5 gigabytes per hour. And based on this, you can calculate what SD card you will need to achieve the required capacity. I always recommend a capacity from 2 weeks to a month. A month is best, Bini, because if, God forbid, a thief comes to you and robs you, then a professional robbery, yes, even a non-professional one, always involves some preliminary scouting. And it will be important for you to provide the police with information about who approached your house in the previous month, what they might have been photographing, maybe a car stopped by, and so on. This will help the investigation. We discussed 1 GB per hour for 5 MP, 1.5 GB per hour for 8 MP. These are modern high-quality surveillance cameras with the H.265 codec or H.265 Plus. If you are looking at some very cheap old cameras, multiply that. Multiply all of this by 1.5 because there won't be a modern codec there. What needs to be purchased additionally? A classic surveillance camera with recording on a SIM card. This is the camera. This is the power supply in most cases. If we are talking about high-quality surveillance cameras, it will be included in the basic set. This is the SD card. It is always purchased separately. And this is the SIM card itself. Which SD card to choose from the manufacturer's perspective? I always recommend asking this question at the store where you will be purchasing your surveillance camera, because all surveillance manufacturers have their own nuances on this topic. And now there has appeared a very large number of low-quality SD cards. They might be suitable for some tasks, such as recording un 4K on a smartphone, some specific use, or recording in regular video cameras. But for surveillance cameras, quality cameras have their own requirements regarding the manufacturer and quality. Therefore, always in the store where you buy the camera, there is always recording on an SD card. There is a set of typical SD cards. Take it as a complete set right away. This way you protect yourself from buying an SD card separately somewhere else and then having some problems with it. The camera might not recognize it at all, the camera might see it, but recording won't start, or the recording might be interrupted. So there is a set of typical problems with low quality SD cards. When should you install cameras with SD card recording, and when should you set up a system with a recorder? From experience, I can say that when you need video surveillance based on just one surveillance camera, for example, at a construction site, it's more cost effective to get a camera with SD card recording and SIM card support. Then the whole set will cost you less than what you would buy, video recorder and a separate router. But if you need more than 2 surveillance cameras at the site, then complications arise. You need a very powerful internet connection for everything to work seamlessly. The setup becomes more complex. That is, if we take a ready-made kit, as shown in the picture here, for example, ISON Tron Pro, there are kits for 4, 8, 10, and 16 cameras. And they connect with a plug-and-play principle. Just take it out of the box, plug it in, and that's it. You don't need to do anything else. If we are talking about setting up multiple surveillance cameras on one network, you need to install several surveillance cameras. With recording to an SD card, some preparation will be required. That is, each camera needs to be configured, it needs to be added to the application. Some manufacturers have their own limitations on the number of such cameras that can be added to one application if it's not based on a single video recorder. Therefore, if you're installing 1 or 2 cameras, a more convenient and budget-friendly option might be to set up cameras with 3G, 4G support. If you are installing more, then you need to buy a system with a video recorder, which is how cheap cameras differ from professional ones. And let's immediately talk about brands. Brands like ISON, Hi-Hi-Watch, Hikvision, Dahua, Hikvision, and Hi-Hi-Watch. This is one company, Hikvision. Hi-Watch is their separate division. They created a more budget-friendly line. Both Hikvision and Dahua are budget Chinese manufacturers. They do not make cameras based on Sony Matrix, the pricing for Sony Matrix. We will talk about it a bit later. Hikvision and Dahua are quite popular due to their budget-friendly prices. I won't say anything bad or good about these surveillance cameras. You can go and read the reviews yourself and you'll see that there's a bit of a lottery. How? And as with any budget equipment, some people buy it and everything works well, while others buy it and start having constant problems. This is budget equipment. ISON is premium professional equipment. It's like the iPhone in the world of surveillance. ISON, Bosch and Sony are equipment of the same order. Almost all ISON cameras are based on original Sony sensors. Not a copy, not a replica, not a counterfeit from AliExpress, of which there are many now, but specifically based on original Sony sensors. I have been working at ISON for almost 15 years myself. All the reviews like the ones I've done for you are always based on ISON equipment. I will also give you specific examples of ISON models now. If you have a preference for a particular brand, you can similarly try to look up the specifications and find something similar, which generally. How does the budget price segment for surveillance cameras differ from the professional segment? First, it's the quality of the shooting. That is, the ISON brand offers better detail quality than Hikvision, Hi-Watch, and Dahua. At the same time, I repeat, it is also more expensive. That is, naturally, this equipment is more expensive. Second, budget brands, they can connect well as best any electronics can. A professional option that works efficiently and stably, and there is something more budget-friendly that might occasionally lag. Also, a common issue with budget surveillance cameras is that the motion sensor works poorly. Additionally, they have more budget-friendly casings, which can be critical in terms of water resistance. You can also find and read a considerable number of reviews on this topic. And of course, the basic things like the quality of components, meaning more expensive premium brands have better quality. The camera operates more reliably and lasts longer, while a cheaper option has a lower price and accordingly simpler quality. Regarding other brands from AliExpress, I often get asked this question in the comments, and I always reply that it's a nightmare. Other surveillance cameras are better not to consider if you have a limited budget. Look at Hikvision, Hi-Watch, Dahua. Yes, these are budget brands. If you want a good quality camera, the brand is ISON. For all other manufacturers, I always recommend better options. Don't buy any surveillance camera at all because you'll waste your money. So let me get straight to the question of which specific models I can recommend. A year ago, we made a video for you where I mentioned that the ISON IPGR Pro model was the best surveillance camera, and at that time it truly was. You can watch this review separately. It's also available on our channel. It features 8 megapixels, a Sony sensor, two-way audio communication of the latest generation, night eco lighting, and so on. At the beginning of 2025, the ISON NFL 1000 Pro model was finally updated. And now it is the highest quality, the best surveillance camera. It also has 8 megapixels, a Sony sensor, two-way communication, all of that. But additionally, it is rotatable and has a 20x zoom. And it comes with artificial intelligence. It tracks a person in the frame, a car in the frame, and so on. We also have a detailed review of it with various modifications available. With an E category processor, there are options with a regular processor, cheaper or more expensive. You can consider these two cameras as a benchmark for yourself. The best cameras as of now, in terms of all parameters, video quality, durability, reliability, and set of features. How to mount a surveillance camera? Almost all cameras are mounted with 3 or 4 screws. Here is a visual image where you can see this. We also have a review on how to properly install a surveillance camera. It also covers the installation of this camera with a SIM card. You can watch it separately. Everything is quite simple here. I will talk about power supplies separately. What wires should be connected to the surveillance camera? Let's now discuss the topic of the power supply. Almost all surveillance cameras from all manufacturers typically include a power supply. It is made of plastic. So here, the power supply itself and the wire are not waterproof. So you will have two options for powering your surveillance camera. Either you install an outlet somewhere nearby indoors and run it. Through this power supply, accordingly, the cable to your camera is often asked about. And if I made an outdoor outlet, in any case, such a power supply should not be connected to an outdoor outlet. It is not waterproof and it will be unreliable. It will fail quite quickly within a few months, even if you just wrap it with something. In any case, if you are placing your camera's power supply outdoors, you will need a specialized outdoor power supply. It looks like this. It's a small box. On one side you connect the 220V wire here. We also have a separate review of this power supply. You can check it out on the channel for more details. And the first power option is from the power supply unit. You pull the cable itself. And the second option is next to the camera. You install an outdoor specialized power supply like this, to which you only need to connect the power cable. That is the 220V wire. The outdoor power supply is always purchased separately. There is another important nuance regarding the cable length if you are extending it like this. That is, for example, you install an outlet somewhere inside the house and plan to connect your camera from this outlet using such a power supply. All manufacturers have a nuance. They have a limited maximum length because the power supply is designed for a specific power capacity. And the longer this length, the more powerful the power supply needs to be. I recommend you immediately check at your site how you will power your surveillance camera, and when purchasing, ask the manager in the store. Ask whether you plan to connect, for example, 20 meters of cable to the standard power supply, or if you need to buy a more expensive, more powerful one. If we are talking about the ISON IPGR 1000 Pro camera, it is permissible up to 20 meters to connect, thus to the standard factory power supply. If we are talking about ISON NFL 1000 Pro cameras, it is up to 10 meters. Again, there is always the option to buy a more powerful power supply. Also, do this only in the store where you buy your surveillance cameras, because there are many nuances regarding power supply. And there is always the option to connect through an outdoor power supply. I just demonstrated it to you visually. What to do if there is no internet at the site at all. If we are talking about cameras, specifically these ISON models, IPGR 1000 Pro and ISON NFL 1000 Pro, they also have the option to access the camera through their own Wi-Fi network. That is, for example, if you have no reception from any mobile operator in some remote area where there is no connection at all. You can approach your surveillance camera when it is operating, when it is connected to power on your smartphone. You find its Wi-Fi network, connect to it, change settings, or download something. So it is not necessary to remove, disassemble, or retrieve the SD card from the surveillance camera. You can use it this way. So you don't insert any SIM card inside, they are capable of working in this way. If you have other cameras from different manufacturers and you need this option, be sure to confirm this before purchasing at your Tao Niliao. store, because not all surveillance cameras have this kind of option. I have mentioned which specific models you can buy. I will also leave links in the description on how to protect the camera from vandals and at what height to mount it. Optimal installation. The height for surveillance cameras is considered to be from 3 to 5 meters. This is sufficient to ensure that the surveillance camera is not easily accessible to vandals. I also recommend choosing a surveillance camera with a metal vandal-proof casing. These models that we discussed, ISON IPGR 1000 Pro, ISON NFL 1000 Pro, have a metal vandal-proof casing. Most budget surveillance cameras from the brands we mentioned, Hiwatch, Hikvision, Dahua, brands from AliExpress, these will have a plastic casing, keep that in mind as well. And these ISON models we mentioned have double glass. That means they are as vandal-proof as possible with the current technology available. The correct protection of a surveillance camera from moisture I have already mentioned to you. This concerns the power supply. A surveillance camera should be installed in a professional setup with an outdoor power supply unit. There should be a junction box nearby or a base for mounting surveillance cameras. If we are talking about the ISON NFL 1000 Pro camera, it does not require a separate mounting base. The connection is made inside. This bracket, again I repeat, we have already reviewed all of this. If you are specifically interested in this model, check it out there in detail. We have covered all the nuances of this camera. Links will also be in the description. Is it possible to connect other cameras to such a camera via Wi-Fi in the latest generation of new surveillance cameras? Again, these two models? Such an option has appeared. They distribute Wi-Fi to all nearby devices. That is, through one SIM card you will not only have access to your surveillance camera, but there will also be Wi-Fi on your premises. This is very convenient for more efficiently using the plan that you will be paying for anyway. And they are also capable of transmitting the signal to similar surveillance cameras. The only nuance here is the range of Wi-Fi transmission. That is, no specialist will ever tell you the maximum distance at which cameras can be placed. Because firstly, partitions affect the Wi-Fi signal. Secondly, draw other Wi-Fi networks if they are present on the premises. Thirdly, all types of electrical appliances. Therefore, it's important to understand whether it will work for you. The easiest way is to buy two cameras, connect them, and see if it works or not. If it doesn't work, then you can purchase a second SIM card. Regarding the second SIM card, people often ask if duplication is possible. On AliExpress, there are quite a few devices available that can duplicate your SIM card, so yes, you can try that. The only thing to understand is that all mobile operators are fighting against this. It is more profitable for them for you to buy a separate SIM card. They made copies of their SIM card. Therefore, here I can't tell you anything about how reliable this will be in principle. What features should a surveillance camera with a SIM card have? The first basic feature is, of course, good video quality, readability of faces and car license plates. The second is popular options that are required, such as sound recording, a built-in speaker. All of these are available in these models: ISON, IPGR 1000 Pro, and NFL 1000 PRO. There are also DNR and WDR technologies, which are essential when purchasing surveillance cameras. In principle, it's money wasted because, for example, WDR technology is a technology that solves the problem of glare. No matter where you place your surveillance camera, several times a day you will encounter situations where sunlight will hit the camera lens or, conversely, a shadow will fall. And surveillance cameras that do not have WDR technology will become useless at that moment because faces in the frame will appear black. Car license plates will be black and unreadable. Therefore, WDR technology is essential for surveillance cameras. And make sure that it is the original technology in the surveillance cameras you purchase, not a copy, replica, or counterfeit. There are now many cheap versions available, WDR or technology. And this has become such a global issue that manufacturers of quality equipment have started to specify in their product descriptions that it is real WDR, that it is the genuine WDR technology. DNR is a technology that reduces noise, meaning interference, in low light conditions. These are essential technologies that should be present. Also ensure that the option for remote viewing from your surveillance cameras is free and does not require any monthly subscription through apps, as many equipment manufacturers are guilty of this, offering a low price on surveillance cameras. Then you connect it and find out that to view remotely, you need to pay monthly some amount for the cameras that I have. recommended to you. ISON and PGR 1000 Pro, NFL 1000 Pro, everything is free there, and there are no subscriptions for anything. Is it difficult to set up a surveillance camera of this kind by yourself? It all comes down to the instructions. For IP cameras, GR 1000 Pro and NFL 1000 Pro, we have video instructions on our channel. Even retirees, even those over 70 years old, are able to set them up using these. Everything is explained step by step, and support for all languages is available. If you are looking at surveillance cameras from another manufacturer, ideally check and read the instructions in advance. Look for reviews on how to set it up yourself, because it involves installing an app, finding the camera, and setting it up for people who are not familiar with phones, smartphones and apps. These moments sometimes cause nuances, so it all depends, of course, on the instructions on how to duplicate a SIM card, which I have already explained to you. Surveillance cameras with batteries. The common question is, if I have no power supply at my site, are there surveillance cameras with batteries? Currently, no professional surveillance equipment manufacturer makes surveillance cameras with batteries, because this is not serious surveillance. There are no batteries that can power your surveillance camera for at least 6 months. It's always the case that you need to change the battery once a week, essentially replacing the batteries in the camera itself. What kind of surveillance is it when you need to climb up a pole once a week and change the power supply in your surveillance camera? Therefore, professional equipment will always be powered only from the grid. Cameras with solar panels do exist. Firstly, you need to understand your region. Do you have enough sunlight? Secondly, it's very expensive. All those offers on AliExpress are of extremely low quality, both the solar panels and the batteries themselves. Proper solar-powered surveillance will cost several $1,000s. This needs to be understood. Any other option is likely to result in wasted money for you, because it will constantly be interrupted. The camera will constantly experience a lack of power. It will constantly malfunction because of this. So, yes, such a thing exists. But the region must be very sunny, and you should budget quite a significant amount of money for such a project. How to extend the cable from the power supply? I've already mentioned it to you. That is, estimate in advance, calculate specifically for your situation how much cable you will need, and ask this question at the store where you will buy your surveillance cameras. Ask them about the cable, as each manufacturer also has their own requirements regarding the cable and its quality. It's best to purchase it there right away. And a competent, qualified manager will also immediately answer the question of whether you need to replace the standard power supply or if it will be sufficient for the specific situation you have. Do you need to install an uninterruptible power supply, and how to do it? An uninterruptible power supply is needed so that your surveillance camera continues to operate during a power outage. And to have protection against voltage fluctuations. Of course, it is recommended, and of course, it is additional protection for you. In the case of surveillance cameras on SIM cards, it's not always simple, Biro, because you will need to connect the wire that goes to your camera somewhere inside the premises to this uninterruptible power supply, because there are no outdoor uninterruptible power supplies. In principle, they are always indoor. Therefore, it doesn't work at every site. Possible. For example, if you have a construction site where there is no heat at all, there it is. Simply technically impossible. And where it is possible, you have to completely redo the entire power line that will go to your surveillance camera in order for such an option to become available. If you have any questions on this topic, feel free to ask them. In the comments below this video, we will be happy to answer